The Honourable Laine McDonald.
Thank you, Mr President. I thank the House for its indulgence and I recognise the traditional owners on the land of which we meet. I also acknowledge their elders, both past, present and emerging. As I rise to make my valedictory speech, I do so with some sense of melancholy, given my tenure in this place has been fairly brief. However, this sadness is tempered with an overriding sense of pride. I am proud to have represented the people of North Metropolitan Region, and I am honoured to sit here tonight as a parliamentary member of the McGowan Labor government. A government which has a progressive, innovative and forward-thinking agenda. A government which will put the needs of people front and centre and which will be grounded in values of fairness, equality and compassion. A government which will be confronted with a huge set of challenges given the state of Western Australia's finances, but can be trusted to carry on its business in an economically responsible and sensible way. A government which will focus on job creation and will diversify and innovate in order to help insulate the economy from mining industry shocks. A government which will not sell off major public assets like Western Power and will be accountable, honest and transparent. Though my tenure in this place has only been about 8 months in length, it certainly has been a short and intense journey. Being a Member of Parliament is a unique and sometimes strange position, and each day has been filled with eclectic duties and varied tasks. From walking the hallowed halls of Parliament to door-knocking in the blistering heat, to attending community morning teas, to meeting with international and state dignitaries. Each and every day as a Member of Parliament has been challenging, rewarding and diverse. I've had the great pleasure of welcoming the newest citizens to this country by speaking at numerous citizenship ceremonies. I've been delighted to meet so many bright students, parents and teachers by attending school graduations, Anzac Day ceremonies and openings. I've met with constituents and attended community events to celebrate cultural festivals and to lend my support to various causes. In my time as a Member of Parliament, I have served as a member of the Standing Committee on Uniform Legislation and Statutes Review. I've asked many questions of the previous government and have participated in debate. But of course, there are many reforms and objectives that I would have liked to achieve as a Member of Parliament, but have failed to do so whilst being in opposition. The reality is that many of these reforms can only practically be achieved whilst in government. That is why I'm particularly proud of the role that I played in supporting the 2017 WA Labor state election campaign, particularly in the northern suburb seats. I would especially like to recognise the newly elected members in these seats and congratulate the member for Joondalup, Emily Hamilton, who joins us in the chamber, the member for Burns Beach, Mark Folkard, the member for Wanneroo, Sabina Winton, and member for Kingsley, Jessica Stojkowski. I would also like to congratulate David Michael, member for Balcatta, and my good friend and former City of Vincent colleague, John Carey, as the new and funky member for Perth. Working alongside each of these impressive people during the campaign, I saw firsthand the dedication to their respective communities and their unwavering ability to work hard and for long hours under immense pressure. It was also humbling to see the diverse range of skill sets each of them bring, with varied backgrounds ranging from teaching, policing, local government, community work and town planning. Over the past few months, I've also had the immense pleasure to work with the member for North Metropolitan Region, the Honourable Martin Pritchard. I thank him for his kindness and generosity. Martin is a true gentleman and I wish him the very best in his new role as the Whip. I also congratulate the incoming member for North Metropolitan Region, Laine McDonald, and undoubtedly her experience, energy and ability to get things done will be an asset to the people of the North Metropolitan region. In preparing for this valedictory speech tonight, I took the time to read over my inaugural speech for inspiration and quiet reflection of expectations and goals I had coming into this role. This appears to be the customary practice. I spoke on many issues in my inaugural speech. I acknowledged my predecessor, Ken Travers, and pledged to take up the mantle he left by being a champion of job creation in the Northern Corridor and the need for a Joondalup train line extension to Yanchep. Whilst I have been driving against traffic from Perth to my electorate office in Joondalup each day, I've seen across the lanes of the freeway the clogged traffic at a gruelling standstill from people commuting from the northern suburbs. Most pleasingly, this government has already made positive announcements in regards to job-creating, congestion-busting projects in the northern suburbs. This government has announced a $186 million investment in 4 northern suburb road projects to create jobs and ease congestion. These 4 projects will help reduce traffic around Wanneroo Road and on the Mitchell Freeway, creating more than 1,000 jobs in the process. Federal funding for Metronet has also been secured, with $1.2 billion allocated to its delivery, including the extension of the Joondalup line to Yanchep. In my inaugural speech, I recognised the importance of having well-resourced state schools to ensure that all children have the opportunity to receive a quality education, regardless of their background or family's wealth. Investment in our schools, including in the areas of innovation and new technologies, is vital to prepare our kids for jobs of the future. Investment in education was central to Labor's election campaign, and I'm so proud that this government will return education assistance back into classrooms, as well as increasing Aboriginal and Islander education specialists. This government will build a new academically selective school in the Perth City in a centrally located education precinct, so that all students can access the school easily, no matter where they live. I'm also particularly proud of the election commitments made to investing in schools in the North Metropolitan region, including in Ocean Reef Senior High School, Belridge Secondary College, Wanneroo Secondary College, and at Balcatta Senior High School, as well as the new primary schools this government will build. Given my background as an asbestos litigation lawyer, in my first speech, I took the time to speak at length about the desperate need for asbestos compensation law reform in Western Australia. Law reform is needed to assist those suffering from asbestos-related diseases and dying from mesothelioma in order to access compensation fairly. I have both spoken and written about the need for asbestos compensation law reform many times, both in this place and in the wider community. And I will continue to do so until justice is achieved. At minimum, legislative reform is needed in 2 important areas of the law. That is, in the area of provisional damages and in Sullivan and Gordon type damages. Regrettably, I was unable to achieve this law reform during my short time in Parliament, though I'm most optimistic that this reform will be an initiative of a Labor government in the future. In my inaugural speech, I, like so many women before me, spoke of the gender pay gap and the uneven division of unpaid labour in the home. I championed greater access to flexible working options, better access to paid maternity leave, including superannuation, and greater access to affordable childcare, including after-school and vacation care. We still have a long way to go in this regard. Just recently, it was announced that only 8.7% of the directors on WA ASX 100 boards are women. Given the Equal Opportunities Act was passed more than 3 decades ago in WA, this is truly disappointing. However, I am heartened that this government has announced that it will lead by example and ensure that 50% of members on government boards are women. Amongst all of these important issues I raised in my inaugural speech, I also raised the need for Parliament to be more family-friendly, and in particular the need to allow MPs to breastfeed their babies in the chamber. This issue was of particular importance to me given the unique circumstances I found myself in when entering into Parliament. I was on maternity leave and the full-time primary carer of my then 5-month-old daughter Matilda when I found out I'd be entering State Parliament to fill the casual vacancy. At the time, I was breastfeeding my baby exclusively, and she was 100% reliant on breast milk as her sole food source. Being a mother entering Parliament with a partner who also worked full-time presented a particular set of challenges, which included the need to arrange childcare, the need for facilities to express and store milk, the need to have access to sterilising expressing equipment, and options to breast and bottle feed. I therefore made the call for the WA Parliament to modernise its standing orders to allow nursing parents to bring their infants into the chamber. Other jurisdictions in Australia have amended their standing orders to provide for the admission to the floor of the House of an infant being cared for by a member. These jurisdictions include the Federal Parliament, New South Wales, Tasmania and the ACT, just to name a few. Other jurisdictions have even gone further to allow for proxy voting and have increased facilities for nursing parents. Therefore, to my mind, the suggestion to amend our standing orders was in no way revolutionary or controversial, given other parliaments, both in Australia and around the world, have done so already. Little did I realise, and perhaps owing some naivety and newness to life as an MP, I woke up the next morning after my inaugural speech to a barrage of missed calls and a flurry of interest from the media. The topic of breastfeeding in Parliament was suddenly again the subject of print, radio and TV media interest. I thank the Honourable Amber Jabe Sanderson and Rita Safiotti for their support on this issue, and of course they have had to navigate the same challenges of balancing duties of an MP with having young children. Whilst unfortunately family-friendly parliamentary reforms have not yet been enacted, with so many newly elected members with young children and babies recently being sworn in, I hope that they will be agitators of this small but important and symbolic change. So turning now to the future. Whilst I will only serve as a member of this government for a few more days, I am so proud of what it has achieved and what it will achieve in the future. With such a decisive election win comes the weight of high expectations from the community. The Western Australian people have put their trust in a Labor government and quite rightly deserve that these expectations be strived for, met and surpassed. It is undoubtable that the challenges that this new government will face over the next 4 years will be immense, given the dire economic situation which has been inherited. Nevertheless, the achievements of this government have already been notable, which is remarkable given the election was only 66 days ago. This government has prevented the sale of Western power. This was a central policy which was put to the West Australian people at the election, and a resounding mandate was achieved to keep this monopoly state asset in public hands. By retaining Western power, we have the opportunity to prevent the reduction of quality of services and to prevent the undue increase in costs to the consumer. By keeping Western power in public hands, new policies and technologies can be explored to ensure outcomes for the greater public good. This government has successfully secured federal funding and transferred $2.3 billion of funds from the Perth Freight Link to the visionary Metronet project and other infrastructure projects. During the election, commentators and detractors said that it couldn't be done. However, the recent announcement means more jobs for West Australians and less congestion on our roads. It means that Western Australia will have transport infrastructure to meet future needs and will mean that people will spend more time with their families and less time in cars. A central tenet of the Metronet project will focus on local job creation by ensuring the local manufacture of carriages. And by halting row 8, attention can now be turned to the rehabilitation and recovery of the Beeliar wetlands. Protection of the environment should be front and centre of any government which cares about protecting our lands, air and water for generations to come. I'm hopeful that new and innovative solutions can be found to protecting our pristine environment in Western Australia, such as looking to renewable energy sources, looking to ban or minimise plastic ban usage and incentivise recycling schemes. A key Labor value is access to universal healthcare, and this government has signalled loud and clear that it will put patients first. It will build more urgent care clinics to relieve pressure on emergency departments and provide timely and quality healthcare closer to home. It will build medi-hotels to support patients who have been discharged from hospital but still are recovering and require further support. This will take pressure off our public hospitals and allow patients to be treated quicker. This government will expand mental health services and rehabilitation facilities. In the North Metropolitan Region, it will upgrade and expand the Joondalup Health Campus and address issues with the Perth Children's Hospital so it can be opened safely. This government will support young people and those wanting to undertake training by freezing TAFE fees. This will allow more Western Australians to develop necessary skills to be job ready and grow and diversify our state's economy. Shockingly, and as pointed out by the Honourable Bill Ledbetter, under the previous Liberal government, TAFE fees have increased by up to 510%. This has meant TAFE has become out of reach for many young and struggling West Australians. The cost of this fee freeze is expected to be paid for by a foreign buyers surcharge, and the introduction of this surcharge will bring Western Australia in line with measures applied successfully in Queensland, New South Wales and Victoria. WA's first female Director of Public Prosecutions has been appointed, and this government has created WA's first Minister for the Prevention of Domestic Violence. Finally, and perhaps most pertinently relevant to being able to achieve each of these commitments, this government has openly and transparently publicised the reality of the current state's finances. The inequity in Western Australia's GST share is a national disgrace. In a recent determination by the Commonwealth Grants Commission, Western Australia currently stands to get only 34 cents for every GST dollar. This is the lowest of all states. To highlight this unfairness, Queensland's population is less than double WA's, yet it will receive around 6 times as much GST revenue. Advocating on behalf of Western Australia's interest in respect to its GST share will continue to be an important task for this government in the coming months and years. With the House's indulgence, I turn now to some thank yous. I thank the President of the Legislative Council, parliamentary staff and my parliamentary colleagues on all sides of this place for your professionalism, warmth and good humour. In particular, I thank the Honourable Sam Rowe, for which I shared an office, and the Honourable Sue Allery for her mentorship and guidance. I also congratulate Sue for being the first ever female leader of the House. Thank you to my electorate office staff, both past and present, to Prue, to Alex, and more recently to Kaylee. I also thank Emily Hamilton, who worked in my office for a brief period of time, and congratulate her again as the new member for Joondalup. It has been a pleasure to work with such confident, capable and intelligent women in what we fondly referred to as the Joondi office. You all have bright futures ahead. Thank you to WA Labor, especially to Patrick Gorman and to Linda Oshalem, for your ongoing guidance, sanity and willingness to answer my phone calls at all times of the day. Your wise counsel has been truly appreciated. Finally, I thank my family for their support over the past 8 months. I thank them for encouraging me with gusto to take up this position and providing me with the emotional and practical support for me to be able to do so. To my mum, to Ileana and Katie, thank you for helping to look after Matilda, and also to all of the staff at her daycare who provide her with love, nourishment and care. I want to, of course, make special mention of my partner Patrick and daughter Matilda. They make every single day a joy, and I am thankful for our small family. Patrick couldn't be here this evening because he is at home taking care of Matilda. However, I hope Matilda's safely tucked away in bed, and I'm sure Patrick's watching online. So Patrick, thank you for your kindness, your love, and your encouragement to just say yes to opportunities which arise. And Matilda. Since entering Parliament, Matilda has grown from a baby to a resourceful, resilient and clever toddler with a cheeky sense of humour. Matilda's smile and confident swagger when she enters a room lights up my life, and I burst with pride seeing her development and growth each day. Matilda will be too young to remember my time as a member of the 39th Parliament, but I hope one day she will read back on Hansard and realise how much her mum cherishes and adores her. My parliamentary position will soon come to an end, but many things will remain unchanged. I will continue to be an advocate for those in need and champion justice through my role as a lawyer. I will continue to be an active member of my local community and of the Labor Party. As I take my seat tonight, knowing that there are only a few short days left in my term as member for North Metropolitan Region, I do so with a sense of optimism and hope for the future. I do so knowing that I have fulfilled my twin goals of representing the people of North Metropolitan Region to the best of my ability and having taken a seat in the historic McGowan Labor government.